Hello, my name is Claire Boothroyd, and I'm going to start taking you through our guidance package on how to present an oral free communication or poster at Aspire. Your first slide is your title, and that should match with your abstract. It should state your name, your co-workers, and your institution. Generally, it also states the conference and the date that you're presenting your work. The next slide is your declaration of conflicts of interest. If you stand to benefit financially from your work, you must declare this. It might include any patents that you have over products which are being tested. It may include honoraria for conducting the research. This is very important. And if you have no conflicts of interest, you must still have a slide stating that you have no conflicts of interest. I'm now going to take you very briefly through time management. My colleagues are going to do that in more detail. It's really important to keep to time. Do not extend your presentation into question time. That is very valuable feedback. Practice, 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 and time yourself to ensure that you have a consistent presentation within the time constraints. Allocate the time according to the relevant sections, and my colleagues will take you through that in the next few slides. You will be asked to leave the podium if you run over time.
Hi, I'm Dr. Durusha. I'm going to speak to you about the allocation of time for the background of your talk. You may have 7 minutes to present and 3 minutes for questions. Or you may have 10 minutes to present and 5 minutes for questions. And you may have 3 minutes to present and 1 minute for the questions, especially for your poster. So spend most of the time on your own work. Talk about the methods, talk about the results. And that is what a free communication or a poster is about. It is about showcasing your own work. For oral free communication, spend approximately 1 minute, maximum 2 minutes, stating the background, stating the question you wish to answer, or outlining the area of deficiency in the published literature. The purpose of presenting the background is setting the scene for your own work and not to educate the audience. Presenting the background is 20% or less of the presentation. So for the posters, it is very brief. Now, when you have finished talking about all your background and the methods and the results and the conclusion and the implication of your findings, there are timelines to each section. So the first section will be for 1 to 2 minutes where you acknowledge your co-workers besides talking about the background and talk about the funding and conflicts of interest. Spend 2 to 3 minutes on the methods and spend about 1 to 2 minutes on the conclusion after speaking for 3 to 4 minutes on all your results. The implication of your findings is extremely important, and that should come in the end where you spend approximately 1 to 2 minutes. So all this adds up to about 8 to 13 minutes. If you spend longer in one section, you need to shorten the other. And the background must not exceed more than 2 minutes. And this is common shortcoming of many presenters who make a presentation. So this was allocation of time if you have 10 minutes to discuss. Now comes the section where you're presenting a randomized controlled trial. When you do an RCT, when you present an RCT, you do not need to use the word prospective because all RCTs are prospective. You will need to state the registration of the trial. You will also need to make a statement whether it is human research and ethics approved presentation. You will need to state the inclusion and the exclusion criteria, the primary and the secondary outcome, and the methods of randomization and allocation concealment which you have followed. You will need to make a comment about the kind of blinding used and the use of placebo if you think you need to. Whilst understanding and being able to describe how the allocation was concealed in the trial and how this differs from maybe linked to the method of randomization and how it differs from blinding or masking is a hallmark of a mature researcher. And that is why I advise you, that to stand out when you are making a presentation, very, very carefully follow these instructions, and it will really help you to be a great presenter.
Hi, I'm Arthur Chang. I'm going to discuss the allocation of time, state, type of study. This is a retrospective case control study, an audit, a prospective case control study, a prospective cohort study, a case series, a case report, a randomized controlled trial, or a systematic review. For the allocation of time and methods, after you have stated the type of study, use equatornetwork.org or another guiding document to ensure that you use the correct reporting guidelines. For example, CONSORT for a randomized trial, SCOPE for an observational study, PRISMA for systematic review. This is presented in the methods. Here are the samples of the reporting guidelines you can use. Methods. State the inclusion and exclusion criteria to your study. State what kind of subjects you studied. For example, humans, mice, in vitro gametes derived from mouse or rat. State the period of study. State the institution involved.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Harun Latif from Aspire. Let's talk about abbreviations. As we know that we need to define abbreviations so the audience know what you are talking about. The first time you see an abbreviation, you have to define it. It is acceptable to use the abbreviations in subsequent slides if you have already defined it in your previous slide. Allocation of time for results. This is the most important part of your presentation. This is why most of your time should be allocated to your results. Present your results clearly. Try using graphs, pie charts, or other figures. As we know, a picture paints 1,000 words. Refer to your statistical methods and do make a comment about the statistical significance and clinical relevance and importance of your findings. For the conclusions and implications, you have to be extremely clear. Think carefully about the wordings. Is it a conclusive study, or does it only add to the body of evidence available? Generally, the conclusion should be completed in 1 or maximum 2 slides. You may have an extra slide which discusses the implication of your work. Make sure it is your work that you are referring to in the implication slide.
The next slide is your acknowledgement of your co-workers and funding. You need to have a single slide which acknowledges your co-workers and identifies any source of funding for the study. Thank the audience for their attention and the opportunity to present your work. And you can do this one at the beginning or the end. Questions. Questions can be challenging. Ask your colleagues to ask you questions when you are practicing. Try to anticipate what questions might be asked in relation to your work. If English is your second language, have someone translate the question for you if you're having trouble understanding the question. The chair will often repeat the question for you and generally will have experience in helping with questions. Thank you for presenting your work at Aspire. Good luck with your presentation and all of your work, and I look forward to seeing your work being presented.